on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hey Eagles fans, welcome to the road to Glendale. We did it in 2017 in Minneapolis, and our quest to do it all over again in Arizona starts right now. My name is Joe Messa. I'm an Eagles season ticket holder and a lawyer. I fight for Philadelphians every day who are victims, injured by the negligence of corporations, the medical industry, and others. Enjoy this playoff special with a lineup of all-stars: Marc Farzetta, Derek Gunn, Devin Caney, Mike Missanelli, and Eagle Hall of Fame linebacker Seth Joyner. The road to Glendale runs through Philadelphia. Let's go Birds.
Welcome into this Eagles pregame show ahead of Super Bowl 57 from the amazing Gallery Bar Booking Games, our home all season long for your Eagles pregame, halftime, and postgame coverage. My name is Marc Farzetta, along with Eagles Hall of Famer Mr. Seth Joyner and veteran Eagles reporter Derek Gunn, as well as Sports Take as well.
I don't get a mister?
You don't get a mister? No.
He's a Hall of Famer, so he gets mister.
He's a Hall of
Famer.
Famer. Yeah. I'll draw the line at Hall of Famer versus veteran.
Good afternoon, D. Gunn.
Did you write the script?
The uncomparable D. Gunn.
No,
How's that?
Like See, learn something from him.
There we go. Well, you know what? Maybe say something nice about how I'm a good fisherman every once in a while. Huh?
You are
I'll work in a mister.
You are an exceptional fisherman today.
What? Oh, wow. Just so I could. The incredible Mr. Derek Gunn on today's broadcast as well.
Oh,
and
man.
fellas, I know we could go back to the beginning of the season and we could talk about how great this Eagles football team is and how great they have played all season long. But really, before the season kicked off, did you think for a second that we would be here for Super Bowl 57, getting ready to watch the Eagles take on, of course, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and the Kansas City Chiefs? Gunner, did you ever think it?
Well, when you look at the way Howie Roseman constructed
Liar.
this roster, wait.
Oh.
I said
Already out of
Howie.
the
Wait. When you looked at how Howie Roseman constructed this roster when they kicked off the season, you said they had potential. We talked about how there was really no dominant team in the NFC when you really stacked it up, so they had as good a chance as any. When it comes to Kansas City, and the Kansas City organization is the first one foremost to tell you, they didn't expect to be here. This is a team that went through a lot of transformation. This is a team that counted on 6 to 8 rookies throughout this season to get here. You lose a Tyreek Hill, you lose the ability to stretch the field the way they've done so well in the past. They brought in bits and pieces from other teams. A Kadarius Toney from the Giants, a Marcus Valdez-Scantling from Green Bay, okay? Juju Smith-Schuster from Pittsburgh. So they put in a bunch of parts hoping to equal the sum of what they got. Nobody thought this team would win 16 games, but what it goes to show you, it's about more than just Patrick Mahomes. It's about the organization and, of course, the structure of both their offense and defense, Seth.
Well, I don't think anybody in their right mind could see this. Let's start with Kansas City first. You have Kansas City losing Tyreek Hill via trade. And as great of a coach and as great as of a quarterback as you see Patrick Mahomes being, you have no inkling, no idea, you're in your right mind that they could be back in this position, especially the way that they started off. The way they started the season off, we kind of looked at them and thought that, there might be a change into the guard a la the Cincinnati Bengals. But in classic fashion, they get it together. Patrick Mahomes winds up setting a record, for passing yards in the season without Tyreek Hill, just methodically moving the ball down the field, converting first down, so on and so forth. Now, he's MVP. If you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, I would say, we thought that they were going to be a better football team. But the Super Bowl? I mean, if anybody who is an Eagles fan said that they thought that the Eagles were going to make it to the Super Bowl, in my opinion, they just flat out lying. We thought that they'd be better, and we thought that they could probably dominate the majority of the teams in the NFC. But, we didn't count on Green Bay having a down year. San Francisco having quarterback problems, and I'm not making an excuse for them. We just kicked their ass. I'm tired of y'all complaining about that. So on and so forth. But it really doesn't matter about the prognostication of where we thought they'd be or what people thought they could do. Jalen Hurts has flipped the script on himself and made a lot of naysayers and haters, kind of eat their words. And I don't usually share this kind of information. Like, I'm not a real lucid dreamer. It's very rarely do I remember dreams. But last week I had a dream that the damn Eagles won back-to-back championships.
Wow.
They had back-to-back. And if they win today, I'm going straight to the window and put 1,000 on them to win next year.
Can you front me 1,000 too? I'll give it back to you later in the year.
Hey, just as long as you pay the juice, you can get it.
There you go. All right, there you go.
We're already set, and we already have our first Eagles change. You probably heard it while Derek Gunn was giving his opening statement as well. That's number one, and I'm sure we will have plenty more as the show goes on. And as the show goes on, we'll be headed out to Arizona to talk to our friend John McMullen, NFL insider for JAKIB Media. We'll also be joined by Adam Malamont. He'll be joining us. He joined us from the field ahead of the divisional round game against the New York Giants, so look forward to hearing from him. And Joe Mesa and his amazing, absolutely incredible tailgate out in Arizona will be joining us from Arizona as well. Now when it comes to schematics, how the Kansas City Chiefs will defend against the Philadelphia Eagles. Seth, we've known Steve Spagnuolo for a long time here in Philadelphia, just about as long as we've known Andy Reid as well. But when it comes to defending against Jalen Hurts, what do you think that this Chiefs defense will do to throw Hurts and this offense off their game?
Well, I think they want to keep him behind the sticks is what they want. They want to force him to have to throw the football, and if they can force him to throw the football, I think they, with Steve Spagnuolo's creativity and ingenuity, they feel like at certain times of the game they can bring pressure and disrupt them. But the equalizer, in my opinion, is the running game. Okay, the Eagles are averaging 44 runs over the last two postseason games for 148 yards and 3.5 touchdowns per game over two. It would be absolutely criminal for Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen to come in here and do anything other than what's got them there. And just to give you a little stat to back up the fact that the run game hasn't gone anywhere. People think that you got to throw it. You got to throw it to win. Yeah, you got to throw it and run it in order to win. You can't just be dominant throwing the ball and think you're going to win football games or championships. But listen to this. The team that finished with the most rushing touchdowns in the last, 55 games in the Super Bowl, 41-14 record. That's the most rushing yards. You want to hear something else that just absolutely blow your mind? The team with the most running plays in the Super Bowl, 47-7. Okay? So now, for all you pundits and all you guys out there, Jalen Hurts only threw for 122 games in the divisional yards in the divisional game. And then he turned around and he only threw for 154 yards in the NFC Championship. Yeah, but they won. And do you really care how they win, just as long as they win? If that's their formula, let it be their formula. Because if you can dominate the line of scrimmage, and if you can dominate the line of scrimmage against the San Francisco 49ers, you sure as hell can dominate it against the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, I'm telling you right now, do not come out here, Eagles staff, and do anything other than what's got you here. We watched the San Francisco 49ers throw a championship away to this same Kansas City Chiefs team a couple of years ago when the Chiefs won the first Super Bowl they were in. Okay, they dominated the preseason. The same way that we were running the ball for 208 yards a game, they did the same exact thing. Then they got in the championship, handed the ball to Jimmy Garoppolo and asked him to throw it 40 times, and he lost the damn game. Come out and run the football. Establish the run. I'm not saying that A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith aren't weapons that you must utilize today, but you got to establish the fact that every single time that Jalen Hurts stick that ball out, we want to make sure that we freeze and make sure that he's throwing that ball. That's going to give him extra time to get the ball down the field, but also establish the running game and make them play honest defense.
I mean, you could look at this offense, both offenses, Gunner, for instance, and you could look at number 1, number 3. They're all top 3 in pretty much every category when it comes to the Chiefs and the Eagles. Just to go down those numbers, you look at points per game, the Chiefs right there at number 1, Eagles are number 3. You look at yards per game, the Eagles are number 3, the Chiefs are number 1. But the most glaring difference is the run game. The Eagles' run game is a top 5 run game in the entire NFL. When you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, you're looking at only top 20 right there. So how much will the clock, bleeding the clock, running the football, owning time of possession, how much will that play in today's game?
When you have two offenses that can explode at any given moment, the defensive mindset and the coaching mindset is get your defense off the field quick and make sure your offense controls the clock, because when you're controlling the clock, that other offense is not getting on the field. If the Eagles are controlling the clock, Patrick Mahomes, who, by the way, led the NFL in both passing yards and touchdowns, is not getting on the field. If the Eagles are controlling the clock, that means Jalen Hurts is doing his job. Jalen Hurts, who finished number 2 in the MVP voting, is doing his job. They're not letting Patrick Mahomes get back on the football field. I think it's imperative for the Eagles to try to control this clock. But I'm going to add to what Seth said. His blueprint is sound in terms of the best way to keep Patrick Mahomes and that offense off the field. Run the football. They ran the football 44 consecutive times in both playoff games. But Seth, I have a feeling that Nick Sirianni is going to come out trying to throw the football, because on the back end of Kansas City's defense, they've rotated 4 rookies they drafted this year. Now, when you get to this point of a season, you're not a rookie anymore. They went through growing pains early in the season, but after I talked to a couple of friends of mine in Kansas City, from mid-December on, these kids have held up their own on the back end. What they've been able to do has far exceeded what the organization expected from a bunch, not 1, not 2, but a quartet of first-year defenders on the back end. That's a significant reason why the Chiefs are here where they are today, because of the play on those guys in the back end. It's going to be interesting to see, is Nick Sirianni going to run the football, or is he going to try to take it to the air and try to test those young defensive backs?
Well, I mean, it's no doubt in my mind he's going to come out early and throw the ball. First play of the game, if I was a bettor, I'd go walk to that window right now and put a prop bet up that they're going to throw the ball on the first play. and it might be a slant to A.J. Brown. Okay, I'd even go that far. I might even parlay it. Yeah. But at some point in time, the thing I give the Eagles coaching staff a lot of credit for is that when the passing game hasn't worked early, they've been smart enough to make the transition back to the running game to get back to the passing game. Now, the team can beat you both ways. They can beat you running it, and they can beat you throwing it. But I think they're a much more effective offense when they're doing both and they're in balance. The reason I say come out and establish the run right away, because this Chiefs team, I was just looking at the stat a minute ago. I don't know what they rank. They give up like 119 yards a game, 115 yards a game, rushing. But that number is really skewed because the Chiefs' offense is averaging 28.7 points per game. They're tied with the Eagles, for points per game. So when you're averaging that many points in a game, your opponents are throwing the ball a lot more than they really have to. It's really the same picture over there with the Eagles, because the Eagles are giving up 121 yards per game. So to me, it really comes down to the team who's willing to commit to the run, and kind of dominate time of possessions. I've been saying, for the last 2 weeks, if Patrick Mahomes gets 10 or more possessions, I think it's trouble for the Eagles. They've got to figure out a way to hold this game to 8 to 9 possessions apiece. Anything in double digits, it's just a problem. You're giving him too many opportunities. We want the defense has got to get at least 2, maybe 3 punts in this game, and they got to force at least 1 or 2 field goals in this game. Now, if you hold them to 8, okay, that's only 3 other opportunities to throw to actually score. Okay, And when you hear my prediction later on, you'll understand why I'm predicting the game, where it is. When you do the simple math, you see it and you understand it. But once you start getting over 10 possessions, now all of a sudden, the Kansas City Chiefs are scoring in the mid to upper 30s. And that's just in my opinion, even though I think the Eagles can score against anybody, I just don't, I don't like the Eagles winning this game if Kansas City is scoring 38 or more points. I just don't.
No, I agree with you there. And I think what you're alluding to is again, going back to time of possession. I think what you have to do in this game, and I think the biggest advantage in the Eagles' favor in this game, when you look at how closely matched these teams are, one is defensively, but when you look at just points allowed per game, they're only separated by 1 point through the regular season as of right now. So when you look at that, that's something that jumps out. They're not that far off, even though I do believe the Eagles have the better defense. Even in sacks, you can talk about the Eagles being the number 1 team in the entire NFL, while the Chiefs are number 2. Although they're at 55, while the Eagles are at 70, so it's still a big glaring difference there. But when it comes to the offense, it's going to come down to controlling the time of possession and making sure you're not giving those extra opportunities that you're talking about, Seth, to Patrick Mahomes in order to burn you, essentially.
So let's take it a step further, D-Gun, okay?
Yep.
So how do you control that? You got to look at Kansas City's offense and really look at what they try to do. Up until this year when they lost, Tyreek Hill, they were a dink and dunk, catch you falling asleep, they hit you over the top. They really wanted to push the ball down the field. If you look at Patrick Mahomes, I don't think they really pushed the ball all that much down the field this year. They're trying to move the chains. They're trying to, like if you go back to Brady when the Patriots moved from a defense-dominated team to an offensive-dominated team after, I want to say, their second Super Bowl, what Tom Brady was doing, checking it down to the back out of the backfield, utilizing the tight ends, running the ball, checking to run plays in obvious passing situations, because what they wanted to do is they want to control the clock and they want to make sure that they're going to score every single possession. That is the same exact method that you now see Patrick Mahomes deploying. So the question is, D-Gun, how do you stop it? To me, the key is going to be Travis Kelce. And I know we're going to get into him, but I kind of lob that over to you because he is the guy. He ranks 4th in the NFL on third down catches for first downs with 22 over the season. There's not even another tight end that's in the top 30. And he's second in the AFC.
You're not going to stop Travis Kelce. He's going to get his.
You better figure out a way to stop him, especially on third down.
There's a way to control him. The best way to try to control him is try to mix up your coverages at the snap of the ball. Make Patrick Mahomes – you don't fool Patrick Mahomes, first of all, but you got to make him somehow feel that this guy's going to be covering Kelce, drop him off and bring somebody down. I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson has the best chance of covering Kelce in this game, unless the Eagles decide to go with a nickel defense, which I don't think they will. Avonte Maddox cannot cover Travis Kelce. He's too small to cover him, okay? I don't think they're going to bring a corner over to cover him. Maybe they'll mix it up occasionally. I don't think Bradbury or Slay are going to come over and exclusively cover Travis Kelce. You're going to get him. How many years have we watched people try to stop Travis Kelce? I go back to a game earlier this season. People are like, wow, Travis Kelce only had 20-something yards in a game receiving. You look at the stats, he had 4 touchdown catches. So somehow, some way, he's going to find a way to be effective. Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are going to find a way to make him effective in the offense. He may not kill you with 100 yards, but like you just said, he will kill you with a first down. He will kill you with a short yardage situation. Jonathan Gannon has got to find a way to disguise his coverages a little bit better, because that offense, when you go to the passing game, first and foremost, starts with Mahomes to Kelce.
I know we've been talking a lot about numbers a lot, and I got a number that might make you both feel better about going up against Travis Kelce today. But as of right now, we want to hear from one of our great sponsors at Del Val.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Del Val Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!
Thank you once again to our friends at Delaware Valley Insurance. Now, what if I told you, gentlemen, that going into this game, the Eagles were actually one of the best teams in the NFL at defending against tight ends? They're actually a top 5 team in the NFL, allowing a passer rating to tight ends throughout the regular season of just 80.5. Now, is all of them against Travis Kelce? No, he's pretty good. He's going to get his gunner, as you pointed out. Even if he's not racking up the yards, you could certainly look at him as a threat in the red zone. But that's at least one thing to look at, saying, Seth, or at least the Eagles have experience in shutting down tight ends.
Well, I think that Jonathan Gannon has got to go above and beyond what he's normally done to shut down tight ends. You talk about mixing up your coverages. I think that sometimes, you just got to put a guy on him. You know the guy that I really want to see on him? I want to see Kazir White on him. I think Kazir White is the one guy that can run with him, and he's physical enough to at least give him something at the line of scrimmage. And I'm not saying to just line him up by himself. And obviously you have to double him, okay? They're going to run a lot of motion to kind of figure out, okay, who's got him, how are they playing him? If he's tight, I line up my defensive end, and at the expense of being a step or two late in the pass rush, I want to jam him. And then after you jam him, have Kazir White jam him again. That almost certainly takes him out of the route, okay? When he's detached, you're going to have to run some combo coverages, almost like a box and one, if you will, where you got 2 guys on him, and everybody else, we may be playing zone behind it, we may be playing man behind it, okay? But you got to introduce some things that you haven't done to make them have to make some adjustments on the sideline. Because if you go into this game with coverages as it was all season long, you've already given Andy Reid 2 weeks to kind of put all this together. If you're coming in with cover 4, cover 6, cover 1, cover 3, cover 2, just your basic coverages, your basic blitz coverage, right now that they've got an answer for it. And Patrick Mahomes is smart enough to pre-snap read it, and they're going to figure out a way to beat you. But to your point, I'd figure out a lot of different ways. I would play him, I would put Kazir White on him, and I would jam him, okay? And the one thing that teams don't do anymore is they don't play inside man anymore. And I get it. With the single high safety, the one route you're afraid of is the slot fade and the corner route, because good quarterbacks, they're going to look you up over here, come back to the corner route or the fade route on the other side. No way in the world that safety's going to get back over the top if you get beat. So everything they do is they try to funnel everybody inside. But the problem with inside coverage is you can run everybody off on this side and send Travis Kelce across the field, and the guy with outside technique, he's going to stutter him out and go inside, and he's going to be running away from him all day long. Now if you're going to run that, you better have some kind of combo coverage. Maybe you got, in some of your man coverages, sometimes you see, they'll go too high and drop a safety in. Sometimes they'll go single high and take T.J. Edwards and play him in the hole. So maybe you kind of bait him. Maybe Kazir White is going to push him to T.J. Edwards. T.J. Edwards is going to knock his block off because he thinks that he's already, got him beat across the formation. It's just a myriad of different things that you have to do. That underneath coverage, man, I'm telling you, guys don't run it because the most important thing you have to do is you got to stay underneath the wide receiver. Anytime that you get even or you're behind him as a defender, psychologically you start thinking, oh, I'm beat. So what you want to do is you want to get even with him. Once you get even with him, now he feels you, he's going to work away from. Whether you're inside, he's going to work out. If you're outside, he's going to work in where he can feel you, but he can't feel you underneath. So stay underneath with the help over the top. So you close the out window, you close the in window, you close the seam window. The only one that hurts you is the corner route, but you got help over top. And with the help over top, you take away that and you double the seam route. Listen, there's a way to get it done, D-Gun. Most of these guys are just not versed in how to do it because how they play defense today.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Seth, with anything you just said. That is the way to do it. For all the kids at home, want to be football coaches one day, you want to play the game, that's the way to do it. My only problem with that is the names attached to the position, and that's Kazir White and Trent Edwards. Gunnar, do you have faith that if you go about it by the book and the way Seth just described it, that those two men are talented enough to stop Travis Kelce.
No, you don't want to see T.J. Edwards and Travis Kelce. If you do, he'll have 20 catches in this game. That's the last person you want to see on Travis Kelce in this game. Kazir White.
Let me say this. Let me preface that whole dissertation. Those are change-up coverage. Those aren't coverages you're going to live in. Those aren't coverages.
He said push one or the other.
Hey, listen, you're not going to come out and give Patrick Mahomes a steady diet of that.
Right.
Okay? So if you're going to double him with the two linebackers, the intent is you want to jam him on the outside and let Travis think that he's already won to the inside, and then bring T.J. Edwards and blow his ass up from the inside when he's not looking. Now, you might get 1, 2. After that, guess what he's going to do? He's just going to, the minute he goes here, he's going to take it straight up the field and split them, because neither one of them probably can run with him, okay? So I'm just saying, I'm not a steady diet, but these are the types of change-up things that I'm talking about that will throw them off and force Eric Bieniemy and Andrew Reid to have to do some adjusting on the sideline.
The mixture. It's a chameleon game. Basically for both sides, it's a chameleon game. I am going to say that you're going to see both offenses, both defenses, give the opposition something they have not been able to look at on film all season long, especially in the playoffs. Everybody has something in their arsenal of tricks at this point. When you get down to the last game of the season, it is the kitchen sink you throw at the opposition. You give them a different disguised look on defense. You give them a different formation look and a different motion and a different play, a misdirection play on offense. We're going to see a cat and mouse game all day long. You have two creative offensive minds in this game today. I can't wait to see what both of them are going to pull out of their bag of tricks.
No, neither can I. And I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later on with our friend John McMullen. We'll also be going to Arizona to talk to John and our friend Joe Messa a little bit later in the program. And Adam Malamut will join us as well. We'll have more JAKIB Media pregame show ahead of Super Bowl 57 in a few.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Why do millions of people every year from around the world visit Philly's Rocky statue?
You want to tell me the sky is burgundy with green stripes and yellow polka dots? I'll meet you on that. But you're never going to convince me Rocky is anything other than the pure greatness that it is. Never going to happen.
Join me, Paul Farber, for WHYY's The Statue. We're going on a journey to explore the biography of the Rocky statue. Find us wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Del Valle Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!
Weather forecasting is a team game.
We rely on each other every day, updating the models and passing along new critical information.
We have a team of 5 experienced meteorologists and a specialized weather producer, Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Sometimes what I see in the model, Cecily could see something different.
That's when we come together as a team to make our most accurate prediction.
And all of this backed by more than 100 AccuWeather scientists. It's a team game.
And we have the best team in town.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades, no judgment zone for credit issues, the best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.
Welcome back to the JAKIB Media pregame show ahead of Super Bowl 57. Once again, Marc Farzetta with you along with Seth Joyner, Derek Gunn, and we are joined by our man on the field himself from the amazing Adam Malamont at Malamont Law. Thank you so much for joining us, Adam. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. I mean, listen, it's Super Bowl Sunday. We're in Philadelphia, well, Atlantic City, but we're in Philadelphia, right? This is Philadelphia territory. I'm doing great.
Here's where I know my night ends, Broad Street. That's where I know my night ends, so that we'll be in Philly at some point. But I do want to ask you this, because I talked to a lot of fans throughout the week, and all of them seem to have that type of love. They'll be like, hey, what do you think about the Birds? And I'll say, I feel good. And everyone will go, me too? Like, they believe the Eagles are going to win this game. They know who's across the field from them, though. They know it's a very worthy opponent in this. Where are you at confidence-wise for Eagles-Chiefs?
Would I be any kind of fan if I said anything other than the Eagles? I mean, listen, we're in Philadelphia. We don't breed losers here. So we know how to win. This team knows how to win. Jalen Hurts, I don't care what anybody says, and there was banter on social media all week about him. The guy's the real deal. Eagles all the way.
I'll go with you 100% there, Gunner.
How is it you're here in Atlantic City and not in Arizona? How's that possible?
Oh, man. You know my wife's watching, right?
You know what? I just put you in a trick bag, so you can't get out of it now.
All right, I'll take it. Listen, you guys gave me the invite, so it was come hang out with Seth, and you guys or go to Arizona. So, you know, I got the best of both.
Nice soft shoe, Adam.
You got out of there quick.
Hey, man, listen, you know, you set that one up.
The escapability from just that was pretty impressive. Now, when you mentioned Jalen Hurts, you mentioned how great a season he's had and all that stuff, how impressive he's been. To you, what has been the most impressive thing about Jalen Hurts this year?
His resiliency. I mean, the guy's gotten himself to a point where there were a lot of doubters. I think Jalen's proven that he can come back. He's a real deal. He's a real competitor. That's what's most impressive.
And what has been a more fun ride for you? All right, to this point at the Super Bowl, or was it 5 years ago? What has been the more action-packed, more fun ride for you?
That's a great question. Look, 5 years ago, we had no idea that we were supposed to be there. It happened. It was awesome. We won. This team just gels. This team just seems to be a team that not only are they full of talent, but they're cohesive. They work well together, and they truly seem to be a family.
When the Eagles made the trade for A.J. Brown, Philadelphia fans lost their minds adding him to this arsenal. But as you sit here right now, did you ever think we would be looking at an offense with 2,000-yard receivers and a 1,000-yard rusher?
I don't think anybody saw that. I think that, you know, if we're all going to be honest with ourselves, we thought that A.J. improved the team. Look, what this team's doing is giving us the best run of any Philadelphia team in recent history. I can't remember the last time any sport we had a run like this. But to say that we could have anticipated that, I don't think that's reasonable.
Adam, we had Howie went out and worked some magic in the offseason and really set this roster up, especially on the defensive side of the ball, in a magnificent way. Could you have envisioned, I mean, was there any confidence in you whatsoever that this bag of talent that Howie handed Jonathan Gannon, that he could pull off, you know, producing the second-ranked defense in the National Football League this year?
Man, I love this defense, and I know I'm speaking your language, Seth. You know, I think that games are won or lost by defense. We've seen a lot of defenses through NFL history, Baltimore Ravens being one of them, that carried the day. You know, there's a lot of talented players. I think that the leadership on the defense, guys like Brendan Graham, really helped form that cohesion. You know, so when you look at bringing the talent in, that's one part. And as you know, if you don't have those folks playing well together, it's the leadership in the locker room. So I give, everybody deserves credit on that.
To ask another question, going back from 5 years ago, I think we all knew when Jake Elliott made that, 61-yard field goal, that it was going to be a pretty special year. It's hard to put your finger on one moment from this year, but when did you buy in? When did you really think, oh, wow, they really got a chance of going all the way?
So since Derek already threw me under the bus, I booked a hotel. I booked a hotel room in Phoenix. I think it was October 9th.
Oh, wow.
So I booked a hotel room there. I was planning to be there, and some things took place. I wasn't able to go. Very happy to be here. I have a friend who actually is using my hotel room there. I probably shouldn't say that, but that being said, I bought in early. These guys were just running the table.
So I'm going to go ahead and say they beat Dallas. That was around the time they beat Dallas.
Right.
And then they had the bye week. You had some time to think. You booked your hotel room.
I think my wife would tell you that I never really think. I'm just impulsive. But bleeding Eagles green, being a Philadelphia sports fan, you've got to have the passion. And look, Arizona's not a bad place to go either. So if Minneapolis was a little bit of a tougher buy-in for me. It's cold there. But looking at booking Arizona, that was an easy sell.
So where are you going to watch the game from? Here with all these big screen TVs behind us, or for the comfort of your living room where you can have quiet and actually hear the game?
Derek, so I'm going to stop by a friend's house right around the corner from us, say hello, but I'm going to go home and I'm going to watch it in front of my television with, the ability to really kind of soak in the moment, right?
Who came up with the concept of Super Bowl parties anyway? My wife tries to get me to go to a Super Bowl party every year, and I refuse to go because all people want to do is talk and walk in front of the TV. I just want to sit there and watch the game and listen to the announcers, the updates.
Come on,
I'm serious. I'm anti-social on Super Bowl Sunday.
It is, I don't know. The government just needs to go ahead and declare Super Bowl Sunday a national holiday, man, and then give us Monday to recover because that's. We're always looking for a reason, to get together and celebrate. I mean, in football, in my opinion, this is big or maybe even bigger than baseball now. So, when you really think about that and the finality of it, and 32 teams, you get down, to 2 teams and it's only one game. It's not a 5-game series or a 7-game series. It's a big deal, man. Hey, listen, my pastor called me yesterday. He's like, good luck. I know it's a big day for you. I'm like, I ain't playing nothing. But that just goes to show you, how people view the game of football now.
Well, I will say this on that note, though, and my daughter's school isn't the only school. It's many schools. She has a 2-hour delay tomorrow. So I did call my wife, and I said, make sure Emanuela is up and make sure if they're hoisting the trophy, she at least sees that happen because she's got 2 hours off tomorrow where she can sleep in before we take her to school.
Mark, to that point, in the event there's a parade, which we all know that we're planning a parade.
No. When there's a parade.
Thank you, Seth. So
stop that.
When we have our parade, Malamut and Associates will be shut down, except for the people who wore Dallas jerseys and Giants jerseys. Those folks have to work. No, I'm just joking. No, we'll be shut down, and we'll give everybody the opportunity to celebrate a great win for Philadelphia.
Let me ask you this, you being a native Philadelphian.
Sure.
There was a 57-year gap between championships before 2017. And this city and this fan base took a lot of ribbing from everybody else in the NFL. And even it got to a point when I would travel with the Eagles Philadelphia fans, say, you know what, D-Gun, what can we say? We haven't had anything. But now that you've got an opportunity for a second trophy in a span of 5 years, how does that make you feel? How does that pride ooze out of you now?
I feel a lot better than San Francisco fans.
Exactly.
I think that, look, I'm proud. I think that Philadelphia will handle it a lot more gracefully. We've been on the receiving end for so many years. I think that we've learned with all of our sports. I think we've learned how to be a little more graceful, and I think we'll be very grateful, too.
All right, well, Adam, it's great catching up with you again. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your great patronage of this show. We appreciate you jumping on, my friend. Safe travels for wherever you're watching the game, of course.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Guys.
We'll be back with the JAKIB Media Super Bowl 57 pregame show in a few.
Why do millions of people every year from around the world visit Philly's Rocky statue?
You want to tell me the sky is burgundy with green stripes and yellow polka dots? I'll meet you on that. But you're never going to convince me that it is. Never going to happen.
Join me, Paul Farber, for WHYY's The Statue. We're going on a journey to explore the biography of the Rocky statue. Find us wherever you get your podcasts.
Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
Plan your day with confidence.
Keep the umbrellas on hand.
With Action News and AccuWeather.
Numerous tornadoes.
Your go-to team when severe weather strikes.
The water is still rising.
Keeping you prepared wherever you watch. Action News and AccuWeather, the team you trust.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Celebrating the life of your loved one is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givenish.
My son Kellen was a lively, vivacious, and sassy child. At the age of 4.5, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and he had a very short battle of only 10 months before he lost his life.
Life Celebrations by Givenish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew that I wanted to celebrate the life of my 5-year-old. And knowing his personality and knowing who he was at the core, that had to be something special.
Turning tragedy into a celebration of life, no matter how hard, is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givenish. Life Celebrations by Givenish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
To the JAKIB Media pregame show, Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and of course, Mr. Derek Gunn.
I like that.
I thought you would. Our thanks again to Adam Malamont for joining us there.
I like
that last
incomparable better.
I like that better, too.
I don't know what you guys have been hearing, but I'll just go back to this point because it seems to be so prevalent throughout the last couple of weeks. This Eagles fan base really expects the win. And when you break it down, regardless of it being the Chiefs, I feel like they have respect for the Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, everybody, Chris Jones, for instance. But when they really break it down, they have not seen their Eagles team lose with Jalen Hurts this season. They saw it one time this year. Everything else for the vast majority with Jalen Hurts under center has worked out for the Eagles. So is this just another game that you feel that the Eagles are going to, like they did the 2 previous playoff games, to dominate? Or is this a game they're going to have to take their time with a little bit?
Can I put a disclaimer on this?
Go for it.
Because I've been, I was listening to it, up until Tuesday before I went home on WIP all day, okay? All in the newspaper, all the media outlets talking about how overly confident, the Philadelphia fans are. And then other people, I'm nervous about our overconfidence. The truth of the matter is, have you heard any Philadelphia Eagle player or coach express this overconfidence? So it's okay for us as fans to say, the Eagles are going to blow the Chiefs out, or the Eagles are going to handle this team or win, in a going-away fashion. It's okay for the fans. The fans can say whatever the hell they want to say. The fans ain't got to make no tackles. They ain't got to make no blocks. They don't have to be out on Front Street for the whole world to see when they make a mistake. As long as the players respect the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, that's all that matters. Because once the ball's in the air, the whistles are blowing, and the first time, someone, goes to block somebody or tackle somebody, all of that thought just kind of goes out the window. Now you get down to the meat and potatoes of this whole thing, and it's our 53 guys against your 53 guys. and may the best team win. You notice I said the best team win.
Absolutely.
Philadelphia Eagles are the best football team.
Gunnar, I want to get your response to that in a second, but our man is standing by right now, and he is in a very loud place, and that place is State Farm Stadium out there in Arizona. Our NFL Insider brought to us by Thrive Financial Services. Our friend John McMullen is standing by. John, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Very loud inside State Farm Stadium, so I apologize in advance, but going to try to get through it.
No, I appreciate it. Keep on trucking, my friend. Keep on trucking. First off, one of the things that really jumped out to me 5 years ago when I was out there in Minneapolis was just how many Eagles fans were taking over that stadium ahead of the New England Patriots fans. What is it right now? Are you getting a sense for which team's fan base is representing better out there in Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, walking around Phoenix over the weekend, you can kind of see there was going to be significantly more Eagles fans than Chiefs fans, Mark. But you know what? The Chiefs are used to being here, right? Three out of 4 years, and these vacations can be pretty pricey for fans. So I'm going to give them a little bit of a break because you can't keep doing this year after year after year. If you're a fan, you hope your team goes there, but that's a big nut, as they say. So there's going to be more Eagles fans here, but I think there is some context to that because the Chiefs are here so much. And right now, the Chiefs fans have started acting up, so maybe you hear them in the background.
Hey, John, we have dissected this matchup and all the strategic matchups in this upcoming game for the last 2 weeks. I never thought I would sit here and have to ask you this question. How important is it that the Eagles have Aaron Sippos back compared to what we've had to endure the last month of the season in the punting game?
You know what, D-Gun, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I really don't. I mean, Brett Kern was okay, but, you know, Aaron Sippos wasn't great before he got injured. Was he better than Brett Kern? A little bit. But, you know, the hope in this game, let's be honest, if it comes down to the punter, Kansas City's going to win because they have an all-pro and Tommy Townsend. The good news is you have the number 1 ranked offense against the number 3 ranked offense. So I don't think the punter's going to have much to do with it.
So, John, you know, coming into this game, you know, we were just talking about it before we came to you. There's a lot of overconfidence on behalf of the Eagles fans, and somehow I get the sense that people believe that that's how the team is approaching this. Just give us a sense, because you've been there all week with those guys. Give us a sense for, you know, where their confidence level is opposed to their overconfidence level.
Well, I think they're very confident. I think they're very self-assured, Seth, very relaxed. And I think that comes from this entire season. I heard you guys talking about Jalen Hurts. You know, they're 16-1 with Jalen Hurts. So they're used to winning when he's on the field. He's going to be on the field. So I think they have a lot of confidence that they're the best team and they're going to find a way to win the football game. They've done a very good job of staying in the moment, not making it bigger than what it is. Nick Sirianni's kind of preached that from day one. The prep was the same for Kansas City as it was for Detroit. They kept everything the same schedule-wise, except they moved it out to the Cardinals facility. So they've kept everything the same, and it served them well throughout the season. We'll see if they can put the punctuation on it. You know, the one curveball is over the past 24 hours, we've kind of learned that Shane Steichen's leaving, Jonathan Gannett's probably leaving, and there might be some other guys going as well. So does that affect the Eagles? We're going to see.
John, I know you can look at a couple of different things that go in the Eagles' favor when it just comes to overall. Mostly, I think, because of their defense, the Eagles are the better team going into today. What do you think is the biggest advantage the Eagles have going into this game when you line up offensive lines, defensive lines, running backs, defense, whatever it might be? What do you think is the number one hat tip to the Eagles in this game?
But I think it's always the Eagles' offensive line. Always, always, always. It's the best offensive line in football. Kansas City has a really good player in Chris Jones, but then it kind of drops off after that. So I think if you look at San Francisco, which had the best defense in the NFL, I think that was a better defense than Kansas City. I think that offensive line has a chance to dominate if they can handle Chris Jones. But to me, the story of this game is going to be the Eagles' defensive line against the Chiefs' offensive line. I think people in Philadelphia don't realize how good the Chiefs' offensive line is. And I think it might be, it's in the conversation of being the second best offensive line. They're a really good group. And if they can, hold the Eagles' defensive front to a stalemate, I think Kansas City's going to be able to score some points.
John, when you look at this Eagles offense, and it's so diversified, as is Kansas City's offense, but you look at the Chiefs' defense, they're susceptible against the run. They've gotten this far with a bunch of rookies on the back end of the defense. Seth and I had this discussion earlier in this show. If you're Nick Sirianni, your first play out of the gate, are you going to run it to test the interior, or are you going to try to let it fly just to loosen them up on the back end?
Well, most likely it's going to be the passing game early. If there is one consistent theme with the Eagles offense, they like to pass the football to get the lead and then run the football when they have the lead. That's sort of their philosophy. That's the way they've gone. I certainly know they think they have an advantage on paper with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith against the Chiefs corners. So, yeah, I think they're going to try to go after those corners early.
John, I want to go back to the Chiefs' offensive line again. I had another question, but, you kind of jarred me a little bit when you made the statement that they may be looked upon as the second-best offensive line in football. I think that San Francisco has a pretty good offensive line. I feel like, the Dallas Cowboys have a pretty good offensive line. I get the sense that, when you look at the teams that the Kansas City Chiefs have played from a defensive perspective, I don't think they've faced anything or along the lines of what they're going to see out of the Philadelphia Eagles today. Now, that being said, first order of business is being able to get Isaiah Pacheco and that running game under control. Because if they can create balance early in the game, Patrick Mahomes is a handful out of play action passes and boots. But if they can take that away, the Eagles' defense, that defensive line should certainly eat today.
Well, I got to tell you, Seth, Creed Humphrey might be the best center in football. If he's not the best, he's probably number 2 to Jason Kelsey. Joe Thuney and Trey Smith are both top 10 guards. Orlando Brown has made 4 Pro Bowls. Now, Andrew Wiley's sort of the weak link at right tackle, and the Eagles have Hassan Reddick there. So that's something Andy Reid has got to handle. But we know Andy Reid, 28-3 coming off a bye. So he understands, and he's going to have a plan for that one weakness on his offensive line. So I wouldn't sleep on that Kansas City offensive line. I've been saying it all week to Eagles fans who think, they saw 78 sacks. They think this defensive line is going to roll right over them. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a much more difficult matchup than people realize. And 80% of that offensive line is Pro Bowl talent. Difference is the Eagles, it's 100%.
Right. To keep going on really when it comes to their offense versus our defense here in this scenario, John, one of the guys that everyone is focusing on, of course, is Travis Kelce and what he could do to any defense across the entire NFL. How would you defend against him? How do you think Jonathan Gannon is going to defend against him? Who's the guy he's going to see most? Or do you think it's going to be a multitude of looks this Eagles defense is going to give Travis Kelce?
Yeah, it's a multitude of looks. You guys probably saw they brought in Vic Fangio over the past 2 weeks to help prepare. What does that mean? That means quarters coverage. That means cover 6. That means all this done is zone coverage. So it's going to take a village. It's going to be the entire back seven. It's communication more than anything. And if Travis Kelce, look, I think he's got 21 receptions in the playoffs. So he's averaging over 10 a game. He can catch the ball 10 times if it's for 80 yards. If it's 10 for 140, you probably got an issue. But he's going to catch the ball a lot. And as long as you tackle and corral him, you're fine with it. It's sort of like an NBA game. Let him score 30 and stop everybody else.
Hey, John, which one of the Chiefs' running backs concerns you the most? They just reactivated Clyde Edwards-Helaire for this game, who's well-rested, had an outstanding young talent. Jerick McKinnon, very good catching the ball out of the backfield, and Isaiah Pacheco. This 7th-round pick does any and everything for this team. Which of those three concerns you the most?
I'm more concerned with McKinnon in the passing game more than a running game. But obviously, D-Gun, Pacheco is their guy running the football. So it's not going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting a lot of carries. Isaiah Pacheco's been their guy. But I'm more concerned about Jerick McKinnon in the passing game than I am Isaiah Pacheco in the running part of it.
So, John, you keep giving me these tidbits and throwing me off my original questions. I saw that article this morning when I woke up. Someone texted to me about the Eagles bringing in Vic Fangio, over the last 2 weeks to help with the defense. I know that Vic Fangio, is a 5-down guy. There's a lot of things that he likes to do that, Jonathan Gannon is one of his disciples. I guess the question in a lot of ways can be, it has a lot of what we've seen by this number 2 defense a result of Vic Fangio's presence. But I also know that Vic Fangio is a guy who can be aggressive at certain times, much more aggressive, than maybe Jonathan Gannon wants to be. And having a guy like that around for the last 2 weeks can kind of change your perspective a little bit. I believe that there are going to be some times and some situations where they're going to have to come with some pressure at Patrick Mahomes. The ability to disguise it, the ability to disguise coverages, is huge, today. Just go a little deeper with this Vic Fangio thing, because I find it very, very interesting that, you could go an 18-game, schedule, 2 games in the playoffs, and then the interim week leading up to the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl week, you hire a guy to come in and work 2 weeks. It's already a defense coordinator somewhere else.
Yeah, it is strange. I'm a little surprised the Eagles did it for a lot of reasons. One, there was sort of this incorrect narrative going around all season that Vic was a consultant. And every time I said he wasn't a consultant, people would say, no, he is, because there was an erroneous report early in the season. What happened was he showed up for training camp. Jonathan Gannon, they didn't know each other, by the way. He's not a disciple. They didn't have a great relationship. Jonathan just liked his scheme and sort of built his defense in the mold of Vic Fangio's scheme. So those two developed a relationship. They would text on occasion, more about golf than anything else, JG would tell me. But once they made it to the Super Bowl, they said, hey, you want to ride with us? And if you want to come along, we'll have you along, because he's one of the best defensive minds in football. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I think what it tells you more about than anything else, Seth, is Jeffrey Lurie will do anything his coaching staff wants if he can do it. And he'll pay somebody for 2 weeks if they want to use him as a sounding board. For those who don't know, the Eagles brought in Marcus Brady, the old Colts offensive coordinator, to be a consultant when he was fired. So they do this kind of stuff all the time. He was just a sounding board over these 2 weeks. I don't think you're going to see drastic changes, but I think it tells you something about Jeffrey Lurie more than anything else.
Gotcha. John McMullen, before we let you go, of course, it is that time of our weekly check-in with you, as we've been doing all season long. What is your official prediction for Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl 57?
Well, I've been with this team day one of OTAs, right here in the Super Bowl 57, and I've only seen them lose once with Jalen Hurts on the field. So ultimately, I think they're the best team. They're the more well-rounded team. Kansas City's top-heavy. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in football. Chris Jones might be the best defensive lineman in football. Travis Kelce may be the greatest pass-catching tight end in NFL history. But it falls off a table from there. The Eagles are better. They're deeper. I think they find a way to win the game 31-27.
Wow. Love it. John McMullen, thank you so much. Brought to us from State Farm Stadium in Arizona by the great people at Thrive Financial Services. John, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Not so bad. Definitely party out there in the press box. At least you can hear the party from the press box, at least. And I'll just say this for the Eagles fans that are watching right now on YouTube and 6abc.com. I'll never forget being out there at Super Bowl 52 right before kickoff. And I remember, I think it was Scott Hansen actually putting it out there saying, let me hear all the Patriots fans, light murmur. Let me hear all the Eagles fans, thunder. Rain down upon that field from the Eagle fan takeover out there at US Bank Stadium. We'll be back with more Eagles pregame with the JAKIB Media pregame show in a few.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Why do millions of people every year from around the world visit Philly's Rocky statue?
You want to tell me the sky is burgundy with green stripes and yellow polka dots? I'll meet you on that. But you're never going to convince me Rocky is anything other than the pure greatness that it is. Never going to happen.
Join me, Paul Farber, for WHYY's The Statue. We're going on a journey to explore the biography of the Rocky statue. Find us wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Del Val Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!
Weather forecasting is a team game.
We rely on each other every day, updating the models and passing along new critical information.
We have a team of 5 experienced meteorologists and a specialized weather producer, Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Sometimes what I see in the model, Cecily could see something different.
That's when we come together as a team to make our most accurate prediction.
And all of this backed by more than 100 AccuWeather scientists. It's a team game.
And we have the best team in town.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades, no judgment zone for credit issues, the best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.
Welcome back to the JAKIB Media pregame show. Seth Joyner, Derek Gunn, Marc Farzetta with you. We look to be going back out to Arizona a little bit later on in this segment when we'll talk to our friend Joe Mesa from Mesa Law and Associates, who, of course, has his tailgate party out there. You know, here's the thing. We talked to him a little bit earlier in the week, Mike Missinelli and I, and he was sending his crew out there, 4 guys driving about the 40-hour period that it is to drive from Philadelphia to Arizona to Glendale. He, of course, was taking a plane. Probably first class, too.
Well, he's big time.
He's big time. He's big time.
We talked to his guys when they were in Illinois.
Okay.
And they told a story about when the trip started out of Philadelphia. Before they get out of the driveway, the RV breaks down.
Oh, yeah.
So they have to go get another RV, and that's about a 3-hour delay. And right before they went on live with us on our Sports Take show, Monday through Friday, noon to 3 p.m., shameless promotion.
There you go.
Rob Ellis, Barrett Brooks, and myself. He says they get to Illinois, and a short while before they talk to us, there's water leaking. Now, I'm assuming they made it because he said we're going to keep going until we can't go anymore. And I'm thinking whoever you rented that RV from should give you a significant rebate.
They overcame, though. They overcame. They persevered.
Good.
They're
good.
there.
They're out of their mind for trying to drive
I wouldn't
from Philadelphia to Phoenix.
No.
Really?
I do want to. Now, Seth, you've mentioned this a couple of times. We talked about it there with John McMullen just a second ago. But when it comes to the overconfidence in the Philadelphia Eagle fan base, I haven't talked to anyone that feels like they're going to win this game by 20 points. I haven't talked to anyone that really feels like this game is going to be a blowout. The vast majority of the scores that I've heard from Eagle fans for their predictions is that of maybe a touchdown win by the Eagles, maybe a field goal win by the Eagles. Most of them have them winning the game, and I don't even remember even going back to the game against the Patriots 5 years ago, anybody saying, oh, well, Tom Brady's really going to hand on their head and they're going to dominate. The Eagles are just happy to be there. I don't know anyone's going to talk like that. But I think the Eagles, again, go back to the fact that they've watched their team win for the vast majority of this season, be the best team in the NFL for the entire season, especially with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback, especially with the runner-up to the MVP trophy in Jalen Hurts, and what they have offensively speaking, all the weapons around them and how dominant this defense has been. I think they have reason to have some confidence, but I don't know anybody that's really overconfident going into it.
Well, I mean, that's why I asked John, given the fact that he's been there with the team, for this period of time that they've been in Arizona. You try to get a gauge and try to figure out where the players are because you can read a lot, as you watch players practice. I mean, you can read a lot as you watch, the players doing warm-ups. One of the things I didn't get a chance to ask him is that you're there, you're watching this team warm up. I know that what can happen, having played in 2, is that you can get overly excited during warm-ups and, if you will, just have no energy left by the time the first quarter's over. You're eating Snickers bars and, oranges and all kind of stuff, just trying to get your energy back up. Teams who have had experience and that have been there before, they know that, the warm-up is almost like a little walkthrough deal. You're trying to keep your pulse, under 75 if you can, which is hard to do because of the magnitude of this game. But at the same time, when you're talking about confidence, listen, you've outlasted, 16 other teams, 16 other teams in your respective conferences, and you should have a certain amount of confidence about yourself. It's just you should, and I go so far as to say that the greatest level of confidence that a player will have is in his preparation, because where you have doubt and where you have a lack of confidence is when you're not prepared for something. But if you're uber prepared and you're really, really ready, then you're not wondering, what can happen. You're aware that there's going to be some anomalies and some key breakers and some things they're going to do to try to trick you. But there's about 3 or 4 of those plays, and then you go back to really who you are. If you can play those 3 or 4 plays well, and those are more than likely going to come from Andy Reid and some of his shenanigans. If you go back to the whole ring around the rosy thing, if you can play those plays correctly, now you're in a position where what they really do, they can't really deviate from that much. But if you're prepared, there's a certain level of confidence that you go into a game with, no matter what the magnitude of the game is. Now, like I said, the fans, that's a whole different deal. We're invested on an emotional level as fans of the Philadelphia Eagles, and in our eyes and in our mind, we just can't see them losing after having come this far and having a season like they've had. So yeah, we're going to be a lot more confident because guess what? We dominated our conference.
I want to go into this for a second, but I want to talk about something that might not be as confident, certainly not as confidence boosting, and that is the idea of the Eagles losing this game. Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but Gunnar, if you had to look at this game and break it down, when you look at one thing the Eagles need to do but they might not, in other words, the biggest detriment to their success today, other than, let's say, turnovers, let's just take that out of the equation because we all know turnovers are killers. But when you talk about the one thing they need to do, and if they don't, they'll lose, what do you think that is?
Get Patrick Mahomes off the field. Plain and simple. You have to force him to go to his left. Do not allow him to go to his right. You know, when they blitz him, be disciplined on the edges. You can't just blitz Patrick Mahomes any way you want. You have to blitz and come to a stop and keep him in the corral. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best ever I've seen, being able to step up and slide to his left or right if he feels that pressure coming on the outside like that. Your edge rushers have to be a lot more disciplined in a game like this. But first and foremost, you cannot let Patrick Mahomes put together 10, 12-play drives and chew up the clock, because that means the Eagles defense hasn't figured out what Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, and Patrick Mahomes are doing out there on the football field.
Seth, what is the thing the Eagles have to do in order to win this game? If they don't, they lose.
See, I'm going to give you two things. I agree with D-Gun wholeheartedly, and, you know, I disagree that you can remove the turnovers off the board because they play a major role. If you go back to the three games they lost, you can really chalk those 3 losses up to, you know, the turnovers. I think they had 4 in one game, 4 in another game, and 3 in another. You know, those are killers. And then I got this outstanding stat for you once again, okay? The last 56 Super Bowl champions have only turned the ball over 64 times. You want to know how many times the losing team turned it over? 163.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Well more than double.
So now you want to talk about how important it is to protect the football, okay? In my estimation, the Eagles are right where they need to be just as long as they take care of the ball. If they turn the ball over, then that has been their Achilles heel, and that's been the thing that's hurt them the most this year in the games that they lost, is the fact that, you know, they were turnover machines in those games. They protect the football, you know, and they do what they've been doing. There's no doubt. You know, we're marching down Broad Street up to the Art Museum.
Okay. All right, so these are all reasons that the things they have to do in order to not lose the game. For them to win this game, what or who has to be the star of the show? There's a lot of avenues you could go down with this, because I know a lot of people, when they talk about MVP, you obviously talk about quarterbacks, you talk about Jalen Hurts' MVP potential. I think the guy right after that, more of a dark horse in this scenario, is Hassan Reddick. Will he be able to eat, as you put it, Seth Joyner, when he goes up against Andrew Wiley in this game? There are other avenues you could go when you talk about the MVP, the more underdog role there. So when you talk about the guy that's going to step up, be the star of the show, or the unit that's going to step up and be the star of the show, Gunnar, who do you think that can be today for the Eagles to win?
I don't think it will be an individual, because it has not been an individual all season long. It has been a multitude of players that have gotten this far. Every week, it's a different player who has stood out. So I think we know the offense is going to score some points. That defense has to get some stops. It has to get some stops. And I think the big matchup is Hassan Reddick and Andrew Wiley on that right side. Wiley's given up 8 or 9 sacks this season. He is definitely, when you look at, when you heard John talk about Kansas City's offensive line possibly being the second offensive line in the National Football League, it's hard to argue against that, because the Eagles had 3 offensive linemen make the Pro Bowl. Kansas City had 3 offensive linemen make the Pro Bowl. The big difference is I like the Eagles' offensive tackles with a guy named Lane Johnson who hasn't given up a sack in over 2 years, which is still phenomenal. I've never heard of such a sack.
Incredible.
Compared to Andrew Wiley, who's sometimes been a sieve for that Kansas City offense over there. So this Eagles defense has to be able to penetrate, and they have to be able to defend. Do not let Patrick Mahomes run around like the Keystone Cops back there until somebody comes open.
The only other pass rush that had at all a ranking of significance this season that the Kansas City Chiefs have faced was the Seattle Seahawks, who only had 45 sacks on the season, once again compared to the Eagles' 70. Seth, when you look at this game, what's the one thing the Eagles have to do in order to make sure they win this one? Who will be the star of the show?
Well, I think for the same reason that the Philadelphia Eagles are in this game, is the same reason why you don't pick a star. You know what I'm saying? I mean, offensively, they've been a team. A.J. Brown has done his thing at certain times. Jalen Hurts has had to rescue the team in Indianapolis and Chicago with his legs, at the end of the game to secure the W. Devontae Smith has had his big breakout games. Dallas Goedert every once in a while throughout the year have had a game. Miles Sanders has had a game. On the defensive side, Hassan Reddick, obviously. Then you got, Gardner Johnson tied for the lead in interceptions, even missing, X amount of games throughout the year. T.J. Edwards, a career year, at his position. Brandon Graham should have been the comeback player of the year because I'm certainly not sure what the hell it is that Geno Smith came back from.
Being terrible.
But I digress. Darius Slay at times, being that dude. You understand what I'm saying? Avonte Maddox when he's healthy, a huge difference maker. Josh Sweat, Javon Hargrave. The list goes on and on. So I don't think there's any one player that you point at. I think if they continue to play the way that they've played as a unit, be dominant on defense, spread the ball around on offense, be balanced, run the pass on the offensive side of the ball, and just don't puke on your shoes, special teams. Just don't. Just
Are you bringing up shades of 2004?
Man, let me tell you something, man. I've seen teams. I mean, you go back to the Green Bay Packers. I've seen teams, lose big games just strictly because of special teams.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I just want if they do what they do and the special team can maintain, just maintain. Don't give up any long runs and give Patrick Mahomes, a 40-yard. Give him the ball at the 50-yard line and give him a short field. Yeah. If I'm Aaron Siposs, I'm trying to figure out a way to kick that damn ball out of bounds.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
And Jake Elliott, kick it out of the end zone every single time. Give it to him on the 25.
1,000%. Also, it was official. Game day inactives. Siposs is your punter today, as we expected going into it.
And somewhat interesting that they would bring up Greg Ward, but yet he's inactive for the game, and Brenton Covey is activated for the game today. Thought that was a little interesting. Why even bring him up if this, because he's dealing with that hamstring injury. So, and people jumped on it yesterday about, first down, Greg Ward is now back. We're going to win this thing, and he's not even playing in the game today. But that's a part of the gamesmanship that goes on.
Enjoy the trip.
Yeah.
Enjoy the
absolutely.
trip. Just like our man enjoyed the trip out there, Joe Messa, Messa Law and Associates, who made the long travel. He's got his Batman mask on.
Glendale, we did a big tailgate out there. We brought the whole crew on the road, 100 people from the tailgate, and we're going to be doing it again after the game, hopefully with a win, bringing that trophy back to Philly.
Joe, that's incredible. How are the Eagles fans packing the stadium right now? Are the Eagles fans packing the stadium? I don't think Joe can hear me, unfortunately. But I know it's a party out there. The man looks like he's ready to go. He had the pizza ovens going out there in the tailgate, out there in the parking lot.
Wow. Okay.
Well,
right.
It's a party. It's a party, as one would assume, for Super Bowl 57. Now, we were just covering and just talking about, obviously, when it comes down to what needs to be the star of the show or what needs to be the most likely for the MVP candidate here for the Eagles. We've talked about confidence throughout this game. What do you guys think is the biggest separation between these two teams? When you talk about the fact that quarterback, more often than not, if you're talking about going up and facing Patrick Mahomes, whichever quarterback's on the other side is going to be at a disadvantage. The gap isn't that big between these quarterbacks. Maybe not even at all with the way they've played this year. Talk about experience, that's a different category. That's a different subject. But in terms of these two teams, they are very close, not just in brotherhood, if you will, between the Kelsey brothers, not just in storylines with Andy Reid having coached here, Andy Reid having fired Nick Sirianni. They're very close in terms of statistical categories as well. What do you think is the Eagles' biggest advantage in this, Gunner?
Depth and versatility in this team. Kansas City not nearly as deep. The Eagles have a much more mature, proven team. When you look at Kansas City, a lot of their guys were in that Super Bowl just a couple of years ago compared to a handful of guys for the Eagles in the Super Bowl in 2017. But this is a veteran late Eagles team. Howie Roseman didn't go out and just get part-time pieces. He went out and got frontline players, which is the significant reason why this team is where it is right now. Their depth and versatility. If one man goes down on the back end, they have another guy that can step up. If a guy goes down on the offensive line, they have a couple of other guys that can come in and step up. Kansas City can't afford to lose significant players if they want to stay in this game.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Seth, what do you look at when you talk about the biggest gap between these two teams?
Wow. It's hard to put your finger on it because, I ran my statistics, right after the conference championships. And, you look at Kansas City's offense, they're first in points per game, first in total yards per game, second in third down conversions, 21st against the run. I mean, I think there's a gap there. But then again, the Eagles' defense isn't really all that much better because, they're 15th against the run. They're giving up 119 yards per game. Even when you look at these two teams in the red zone, Kansas City is 70% in the red zone. The Eagles are 68% in the red zone. There are a lot of similarities here. I think the biggest gap, the biggest difference is in the two defenses, because as potent as Patrick Mahomes and this Kansas City Chiefs offense can be, our offense can be just as potent, tied for first in points, 28 points a game, 384 yards, total yards per game. So we're only, 19 yards behind the Chiefs in total offense per game, 46% on third down conversions, which means that they're 3, that means we're 4. So when I look at the difference of, the two offenses, I think the fact of how we run the football and how they pass the ball, it kind of balances a lot of things up and makes them similar. But when I look at these two defenses, their defense isn't even close to what the Eagles are bringing to the table. They've got, one, maybe two, really great players on the defensive side of the ball that can cause some problems. But one or two players ain't going to get it done. That's just not enough. The Eagles, on the other hand, they've got players across the board on all 3 levels that can make plays and make things happen. And, so for me, that's the greatest gap is between the two defenses.
One of the things that I really enjoyed reading about today was how basically so many different Eagles players addressed the team last night. Moments of inspiration that were given to this team by Nick Sirianni, giving the microphone to different players. Same thing happened last year in the playoffs. Jason Kelce took the microphone, talked about how special it is to try to make a run. Last year, unfortunately, it ended after one playoff game, a loss to Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. This time around, Jason Kelce, Jalen Hurts, a number of other team leaders, Darius Slay being one of them as well, addressing the team to try to get them in the right mindset to talk about what this moment means to them going into Super Bowl 57. Seth, I want to ask you this question. In 1998, 1999, you won a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. The night before that Super Bowl, what was said? And is there anything you look at your team that you won a Super Bowl with and you see in similarity to this Eagles team?
See, I think it's a different era. For me it was different because, the Packers were just coming off a championship in 97 when we went, that year, 96, in that year in 97 when they went back again against the Denver Broncos and lost. They had already been there, so there wasn't a whole lot to say because they had already experienced it. Then fast forward a year, and I'm in Denver, and they're going after their back-to-back, win. So the situation was similar. There wasn't a whole lot to say, and a lot of times with veteran teams, there isn't a whole lot to say because you just understand. You might whisper something to the young buck, who's wide-eyed and kind of stunned by everything. But when you've been there and you've done it before, there's really not a whole lot to be said. So when you fast forward to today's NFL, the motivational piece, how you bring guys in, from other sports and other arenas, like Doug bringing in, Kobe Bryant to talk to the team. And a lot of that is emotional intelligence that, we didn't exercise back in my day of trying to figure out, how to connect with the players in the locker room, be it, the music at practice, the rap music that goes on, during warm-ups at practice, or bringing in a guy like Kobe, a guy, a high-profile guy that you can just, introduced to the team and that these young guys identify with, I think it's just a different era and a different age. But I would say you get to Saturday night before a Super Bowl, if you need somebody to come in and give you a prep talk, you need to go check your pulse, baby.
Well, you know what, Seth? I think there's a little emotional caveat that's attached more so to this Eagles team right now, simply because is this Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon swan song coaching in Philadelphia? They only have 4 starters coming back that are under contract right now. You can have a whole new plethora of defensive players, although we believe that Howie Roseman's going to find a way to get who he wants to come back. So there's a brotherhood and a bond here that may be broken after this game. You don't want to go out with that bad taste in your mouth of not being able to finish what you started in 2022 as well.
I got you.
All right. Now, it has come that time in the show. It is our final predictions for the JAKIB Media pregame show. I couldn't be more honored to be on this wall with you gentlemen throughout the entire season and this wild ride we've been on throughout, watching this team just get better and better and better. And now here it is ahead of the Super Bowl. I'll go first because I'm sure everyone wants to hear you guys give your take as well. I'll give you guys the final word. I am very confident in an Eagles victory today. I do respect the opponent that's out there. I realize the incredible play of Patrick Mahomes, the experience of Andy Reid. We know him all too well here in Philadelphia. But when I think this team walks away tonight, I think they walk away with a Lombardi trophy, thanks mostly to that defensive line. Going to go out there today, throw different looks at that offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs, and do their best to contain a guy like Patrick Mahomes. I think the Eagles win this game tonight by a score of 34-27. Gentlemen, who wants up next?
Well, you know, one aspect we haven't talked about is how will both teams handle this new turf that's being put on the field for this game today. It's called Tacoma 31. It's a field that's been developed since 2006, a mixture of Bermuda and ryegrass. Players got to go out there and test it. Do you wear short cleats, long cleats, whatever the case may be? So it's going to – why are you laughing? It's going to take some time.
This is the most specific I've ever heard you.
Really? The whole season?
Mark, did I not call him the incomparable Derek Gunn?
And you nailed it.
See? Look, now you understand why.
This has been a field that's been they wanted a field that was more durable for weeks' worth of practice sessions, halftime shows, and postgame shows because natural grass tears up too easily. So, and plus this stuff regrows a lot faster. So the league, and it was funded by the USGA, the Golf Association, has funded this thing. So it's a field that's also being used in golf. So players go out and test it. Long cleat, short cleat, how much slippage is there, if anything. With that said, dominant performance. You put very confident. I don't attach very to anything in this game.
Okay.
I am confident the Eagles win this game. I think it's going to be, as I said off the top of the show, there's going to be a lot of gadgets, misdirections. Both teams are going to see things they haven't seen before from the opposition on film. When the dust settles, the superior talent holds up in this game. I like the Eagles 30-27.
All right, I love it. We got confidence over here, Seth. What do you got?
No one – there's a lot of conversation and complaining going on, from the New York Giants and even more so the San Francisco 49ers. And excuses are a dime a dozen. But the one thing that all these pundits and these players have not addressed is the fact that the Eagles have outscored their opponents in the 2 playoff games 14-69, okay? The anomaly in this game is that both of these 2 teams through the playoffs are averaging 28.7 points a game. So something's got to give. Something's got to give somewhere along the way. If you take out the turnovers and you take out the fact that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in this game, and he should be, and that Andy Reid is the best head coach in this game, and he should be, okay? But you consider the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles are the most complete football team in the National Football League this year. And they're going into this game with all 22 of their starters healthy. That matters. That's a big deal. That's a confidence thing. I just saw Jalen Hurts take the field, and I seen him doing his little gritty dance. So that tells me not only is he locked in, but he's calm, he's cool, and he's playing this thing like they would normally play it. And he's not. The moment isn't too big for him, and that's important. It's important for the rest of the team to see that this is his approach. So as they come out and they're watching him, that they take the same kind of approach and bring it down until kickoff. okay? The fact that the Eagles are the better football team, overall football team, leads me to believe that they win this football game. And I like the Eagles. I've been saying it. That's been my prediction. You know, since the NFC Championship game, I said that the Eagles would win 32-26.
There we go.
Yeah, I think also we've talked for an hour and a half, and we've overlooked some important things in this particular game. It's the first time since 2017 number one seeds are facing off in a Super Bowl. It's the first time in history 2 African-American quarterbacks are stepping under center in this game. And it is also the first time ever that a flyover after the national anthem will be done in a jet by an all-female crew.
Oh, wow. I did not know.
Those are significant firsts that we're looking at in this game today.
History being made.
Incomparable.
Incomparable,
man.
The incomparable Derek Gunn.
Let's do my homework, but thank you.
I mean, you just made me lose my train of thought, man. I'm looking at this dude like wow.
That's a good thing. You can save it for the post-game show because we're up against it here, unfortunately.
Gosh, I can't remember what it was.
I'll take my time in doing the sign-off.
Go ahead, do your thing, man.
For all of you that have watched the Pregame Media pregame show throughout the year, couldn't be happier that it ends on this stage, of course, ahead of Super Bowl 57, and what I feel, and we feel, will be an Eagles victory. 2 Super Bowls in 5 years. Not too shabby. Have a great rest of your night. Enjoy kickoff. I'll be along for the halftime show along with Devin Caney, and, of course, Mike Bisnelli will be sitting in this seat. I hope to be on Broad Street joining you guys for the postgame show.
Hope is not an adjective that we use, Marc Farzetta.
Yeah.
I will see you in the postgame show.
See you in the postgame show. See you on Broad Street. See you on Broad Street or either Wednesday or Thursday. And the party's really happening once we get to the steps.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone that watched. Appreciate you guys. See you at halftime, and you'll see these guys on the postgame show. For all of us here at JAKIB Media, thanks for watching. Catch you later. Go Birds.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
Welcome to Pondley Hockey. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades, no judgment zone for credit issues, the best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.